Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Green Wisdom Health Show. I'm Janet Lewis.
And I'm Dr. Lewis.
And we are here to educate you once again about another important topic that all of you have been asking about, the aging effects of stress. So many of us are stressed every day, all day, any day, and can't wait to escape our lives or go to bed at night because we just want to get away from it. But do you realize how much that it is aging you prematurely? And Dr. Lewis is going to tell us how that is possible and how can we stop it and get off the merry-go-round and do something different in our lives to make them stress-free, peaceful, and fun. So, Dr. Lewis, tell us.
Well, what if doing this is stressful? I need to go fishing. Okay, never mind. I'll stick with it. You know, stress is a real thing. Many of us create our own stress. You know, that's the old thing about, people create their own storms and then cry when it rains. And I've mentioned in several previous podcasts that people should really read a book called Negaholics, and that's how you create your own negativity and, the biofeedback loop. You can learn to have less stress just by the way you think, by the way you react or don't react. But there are other things you can do nutritionally, and there's a lot of theories on aging, and one of them is the DNA or the genetics. And many people use that as an excuse to not take responsibility. And yes, your DNA and genetics do play an important role in the expression of your life in many different ways, but there's plenty of research that says you can actually increase positive genetic expression by 80, 85, 90, 95%, depending on what research you read. And I read a lot of it. And so the main thing there is you cut out toxins as much as you can, but I think it's easier just to increase your nutrition so your body can increase its different detoxification pathways. So DNA and genetics. Then there's another possibility is the neuroendocrine theory, and that has to do with, all the different hormones. And y'all know, if you've listened to us, that Janet and I definitely deal with trying to put different nutrients into the body so your body can balance that. And it even goes up to the pituitary and hypothalamus in the brain, but it can certainly be influenced, good or bad, by the thyroid, the adrenals, the thymus, etc., and that doesn't even get into the sex hormone part of it. So there's many, many things that can be done about that to let your body take charge again. The other theory that we probably should talk about is free radicals or oxidation. Those of you that have gone over my consultation with the lab work will talk about, I've talked about oxidation with many of you, and that can be too much stored iron, ferritin, your CO2 is too low, too high, all that's on the lab work, and that's why Janet always talks about how we do very inexpensive lab work, and I don't deal with diseases or diagnoses. What we're looking for is optimal ranges to put the nutrients in so that your body can function in an optimal range if it's not. The other thing, cross-linking theory, and that has to do with glucose or fructose and all the different reactive compounds, so to speak. Glycation, basically, and there's some really, really good research on that. So that goes into, don't go into metabolic syndrome because you're eating out of the same trough as people that are not healthy. So, and that's when the proteins, they'll cross-link or react to each other and form all kinds of bad things. Then there's the immune system. Well, I see more and more people with immune system issues, and I think it's mostly because we're full of genetically modified foods, and that has plenty of glyphosate and many, many, many other bad things in it. It's not just Roundup and glyphosate. They're taking a big beating in court as well. I think they should, but there's many other chemicals that should be eliminated, from our crop. it's just crazy what they're putting on there. They're not really increasing the amount of yield per acre because of these chemicals. I really don't know why they're doing it, and it's adversely affecting us. There's so many different people that talk to me every day, whether it's on the phone or through emails or through Shooting Straight with Dr. Lewis. Please join that. It's a closed Facebook group. They talk to me about their kids having immune system issues. It's crazy. And, Janet and I are always studying, always going to the best different supplements. We're going through a lot of changes now. We're going through some possibilities in different, better lab work, even less expensive but more exclusive. We're always searching, and that immune system needs to be supported. And one of the things you need to do is always probiotics, and there's a whole lot of lies and half lies and distortions and deletions told about those. So that will, if your immune system's good, it will certainly slow your aging process. Telomeres. Not many people have heard much about telomeres, but they just break off a little bit at a time, and as soon as it gets too short, then you die. Well, one of the things you can do is take enough supplements so that it slows the breaking of the telomeres itself, so that it's the end of the chromosome is what that is. You're hearing more and more about stem cells. I think the medical profession has done a really good job with that, and I've seen some really good work. So, all I'm saying here is there's so many different possibilities. You got the cell metabolic thing going on, and I mentioned metabolic syndrome, but that's generally because you eat incorrectly and or your body can't handle the food that you're eating, even if you don't have the food allergies to that, which I'll get into in a little bit. So there's just massive amount of things that you can take. You cannot get it all out of your food because our soils are really deficient in the minerals, which are the basics for all of this, but they don't have many vitamins. And even if they did, by the time you haul it from California oranges to Florida, or Florida oranges to California, or Texas oranges to Michigan, most of the nutrients are gone anyway. They've degraded. So let me back up, try to simplify that. There's 4 things that you always need to do. Remove toxins and the bad organisms and the harmful foods. That in itself, it can be a pretty daunting task. Then you have to replace digestive enzymes. And again, we're always looking for more, better, bigger, but I've got one that's become my favorite, and I've experimented with many, many ones. Digestive enzymes actually have an immune boosting effect, and that's maximized when your blood becomes alkaline. Now, don't believe the thing about, cancer can't live in an alkaline body, because that's very, very much oversimplified. To alkalize your body, you just need to eat the alkaline forming foods. And we have a list when somebody does their lab work, and Janet emails you all kinds of things, and one of them is a short list of alkaline forming foods. You can buy a several $1,000 machine that will slightly alkalize your water, or you can just put in, some of our good absorbable minerals that makes it very, very alkaline, and don't have to spend several $1,000s to do it. So,
minerals really do help with stress, though, right?
In a big way.
Most people don't ever think about minerals. They think about magnesium or calcium, but just straight minerals. Like we sell one called reacted minerals that really seem to just make you feel more stable, peaceful, not so stressed out, not like you're being dried out from the inside somehow.
Well, it has a lot to do with making the neurotransmitters, which I call them happy hormones, and that goes from your GI tract up to your brain. Then if you're low in the B6, it can't really cross the blood-brain barrier either. But yes, minerals are very, very important. So, remove all the harmful stuff, replace the digestive enzymes. Then you have to re-inoculate the good organisms or the probiotics, and that's a pretty daunting task in and of itself. Big John sent me an email today about how to ferment kombucha. I think we're going to have a hands-on for me to do that, because I think I'm worked too hard anyway. But I know you need to brew your own, and Janet and I take gobs and gobs of different probiotics, and Janet's, always, she's experimenting. She's found some that really help the ladies out. It's kind of pretty incredible, but it's the lack of probiotics that trigger intestinal inflammation, even the ones that's created by your food that you're somewhat allergic to. Then after all that, you have to repair the gut leakiness. Now, the best thing for that, in my opinion, is SBI Protect. Now, there's other things. There's one that's really, really well-rounded, and I think one of the best things you can do is take something called Core Support.
It's a big liver detoxifier and cleanser.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times when you get really tired and feeling like you're aging, it's because you're toxic. And the Core Support helps go in there and clean that back up and give you a spark of energy so you can keep going.
Well, it's real popular, and that's why I mentioned it. There are just massive amount of people that take it and get good results from it. I mentioned the other day about fish oil, how that decreases gut permeability, helps ulcers, it helps neutralize H. pylori. It goes on and on and on. Chlorella decreases inflammation in the gut. Glutamine, which is probably the most important amino acid to help heal the lining of the gut, help it rebuild and repair itself. Although arginine is also another good one too. The fiber feeds probiotics, and that's very, very important. So don't get, there's a lot of buzzwords out there. People say, well, what about this and what about this? I said, well, if you're eating fiber, you've got plenty of probiotics. Because you've given them a place to live. You give them a place to live, and then all of a sudden, they begin to grow. So there's some, I talked about getting rid of the offending foods. We deal with a lot of people that have colon problems because everything's related to gut and inflammation. I want to tell you the major things that we're allergic to that create colitis or IBS. Dairy comes in at number one, and I think if it was raw, it wouldn't be the same issue. Just had a lady says, well, I get mine from a dairy and it's raw and you got the cream floating on top. I said, well, that's probably good stuff. I was raised on milk from a Jersey cow. Anybody knows about that? It's got a very high fat content compared to other dairy cows. But dairy, because it's pasteurized and homogenized, is probably the number one problem with colitis or IBS. Wheat comes in at number two. And actually, I had trouble believing that. I thought wheat / gluten containing grains / glyphosate Roundup containing grains would be number one. But this particular research article says it's this way, and as much as I disagree with it, I'm going to give them credit anyway. I'm going to get really personal here. For colitis and IBS, chocolate comes in at number 3.
Oh, really? That's amazing. Chocolate interferes with IBS?
I hate that.
I wonder, why would that be? Why? The caffeine in the chocolate maybe making it irritated? That's interesting.
Sometimes Janet goes from preaching to getting personal because number 4 is coffee. And I hate that. I drink coffee for Janet's protection.
Must keep things agitated.
Yeah, and then nuts come in. And nuts are very good for us because of the anti-inflammatory omegas. So, yeah, I don't know, but for a lot of people, it really does adversely affect their colon.
Well, what are they supposed to do for stress if they can't eat chocolate? I know the answer to that. Never mind. No chocolate. Okay.
I was going to say I don't know, but now that you say that, something else comes to mind about
forward.
Stress. Hey, you're the one that mired me in the quicksand. So, and then there, I mentioned the other grains, barley and oats, also come in there. And people say, but I like my oatmeal. It's full of glyphosate. Quit it. I eat oatmeal 2 or 3 times a year. That's about how much I do. Corn is a big one, and I don't know if it's just because it's corn or whether it's GMO or whether it's the glyphosate on it. I don't know, but we're here in East Texas, heavy Hispanic influence, and I love tortilla chips. That's what we do here. But it adversely affects the way I feel if we don't take the things that will offset that. We do have supplements that'll do that, and sometimes it's things as simple as bacon, eggs, and different meats. Usually it's the meats that have the nitrates in it, the pepperoni, bologna, that kind of stuff. So, think about that. It's something that, I don't know, it's hard to eliminate all that, but, let's get into maybe a different little area of aging.
Well, in stress, it messes with your brain. Did you realize that it makes you foggy thinking, and it makes you, it just makes you not able to put your sentences together.
Well, yeah, maybe that's why I'm a little slow today.
Yeah, it's interesting.
We're going through a lot of changes, which y'all are going to benefit from, but it's going to take another month or two. It's definitely a good thing. And I think it's funny that Janet mentions that because, we don't have the same set of notes here. There is a brain-skin connection that kind of is an underlying inflammatory skin diseases are aggravated by stress. And I had an email yesterday about, my 14-year-old child has occasional bouts of eczema, and, you can put, we sent some stuff today.
It's interesting you say that about skin. Women are all about skin and anti-aging, and stress affects that. Is there something that they could take that would keep them from, to keep their skin looking good? Because, nobody cares about the inside as much as they do the outside. Got to keep your hair, got to keep the color.
It's sad but true.
Got to keep the skin.
we sell a great amount of something called cosmetics. It has the vitamin A, that's immune system, and, vitamin A supports lungs and skin and immune system. A little bit of vitamin D, folate, B12, biotin. Well know about biotin. But then it has things in it like MSM, horsetail. Horsetail rush is really good. A little bit of saw palmetto, believe it or not. And that's good for the skin, although most people only know that's good for your prostate. Sting nettle and paraminobutyric acid. So, the cosmetics works real well. It's super duper popular. What you can do, you need to learn to laugh. You need to meditate. You need to sit by the creek or do something that is pleasurable where you get quiet your mind, get back to nature. I remember years ago when getting on the internet was an escape from reality. And now we're going back to nature to escape from the internet. And that's probably a really good thing to do. But I think laugh and meditate is one of the best things you can do. Because if you stay stressed, if it's a chronic thing, it adversely affects your cortisol levels. They'll go way up. And then if you keep that up and don't do anything about the long-term stress, it lowers your immune system. Then your DHEA begins to get lower, and that's responsible for at least 150 different repair mechanisms, including the brain and the body in itself. Higher levels of cortisol that drops the DHEA gives you low DHEA will give you a higher chance of your immune system not be able to take care of yeast, fungus, viruses, food allergies, environmental toxins, and cancer. So you want higher levels of DHEA, and that is generally an effect of long-term stress connected with cortisol, connected with the brain stuff that I talked about before. So the elevated cortisol, one thing it does, it has vasoconstriction. That means your blood vessels tighten up, so you get less transport through your blood vessels of the nutrients into the skin. That lowers collagen production. And we do sell a ton of that collagen because that's the really good stuff. Yeah, but that's a cortisol thing.
And you don't know what your cortisol levels are, which is adrenal function, unless you do lab, correct?
Yep. And, those of you that listen to me, thank you for your compliments. It really does encourage me to keep doing this. I'm a little bit of a smart aleck, and I'm not going to change. Most people live on smoke and mirrors, and they have no reserve for their body to keep going. And if you let your cortisol stay high, then eventually your adrenal glands will go into adrenal exhaustion and it goes low. And I've been guilty of that. But it's hard to keep your body going. So quit living like your check engine light's on, but you say, no, hold my beer, I'll be fine.
Yeah, and you're in the summertime now. It might be a good time to get your lab checked. If you're new to this and have never had that checked, we do it very inexpensively, and we always include cortisol because it is very important for adrenal function. And it's called the Comprehensive Panel. It's GWH3. It's one of our featured panels on our website at greenwisdomhealth.com. But it will tell you things about your stress. Another one that's got to do with stress is vitamin D. Your vitamin D needs to be at higher levels also because that will make you more stressed without it. It also contributes to weight gain and digestive disorders if you are stressed. So, ladies, mostly, that care about that, if you're overweight, it could be because you're stressed and you need help coping with cortisol. So, one of the first things it does for many people when somebody gets stressed is they quit going to the bathroom, which means their trains quit coming through the tunnel like they're supposed to.
Yeah, they're puckered up, not just mentally.
Right. If you're eating 3 meals a day, there should be 3 bowel movements per day because that's the way you're healthy. So if you're not doing that and you're all tied up in knots, not going to the bathroom, there are things you can help to work through stress. You may still experience it, but at least you can function during it.
You can react differently to it or choose not to react at all. And one of the things I tell a lot of the patients is you can choose peace instead of this.
Yeah, and stress actually increases pain. Did you know that? Makes you hurt worse. So joint pain.
Yeah, I have a smart aleck answer for that one, but yeah, you're right. The collagen breakdown can be up to 10 times greater from stress itself if your cortisol's not right. So collagen, think, wrinkles, but it's more important than that. There's plenty of medical research says cholesterol's not the issue, but the LDL's the problem. You have to test the adrenals, and that's, I tell people, get the comprehensive, but add the hormones, because then you're going to get the DHEA, and we're going to know a lot more about you. That's very, very, very important. DHEA can be found in the skin, but if it goes low, like under chronic stress, it's found in the skin, so it breaks down, but it's converted to estrogen and then downstream to testosterone in a woman. Men, we need all that we can do.
Well, it's very interesting that people that are aging, that they found in this study with people that had Alzheimer's disease, which is, the degenerative cascade is accelerated in the aging brain. And the study of these elderly people found that the hippocampus size was reduced by 14% in those with high cortisol levels.
Hippocampus is where hippos go to college.
Okay. And that these participants showed much less ability to create new memories for new learning. And then another study found that the hippocampus size was linked to the rate of progression in Alzheimer's disease. So see, these things start way before you get diagnosed with, oh my goodness, all of a sudden this Alzheimer's has just creeped up on somebody and it's taken them over. You're getting warning signals all along.
Yeah, and then if you have short-term memory loss, we do have a supplement that has folinic acid. Yeah, and it feeds the hippocampus. And when I started taking that, oh my God, I could remember all kinds of things. So, there's, you can call us and talk to us. But the other thing is, we tell you to eat clean, meat, eggs, and milk. If they're from stressed animals, that also transfers to us. If a mother's stressed, that is pre-programming your baby. So there's more and more good reasons to be happy, to be healthy, and there's a lot of different approaches to that. Mild exercise increases stress response.
When you're talking about eating correctly, we did have a question from Donald that, he was talking about sugar being poison and honey is sugar. Honey's supposed to be good for you. So he's asking, is that a good food or is that poison?
And I love talking to Donald. He's an airline pilot, and he's actually moving from, I think, Iowa down here to Bloomberg, Texas, which is really not far from here. Got a dog from Bloomberg once. I think honey's good, but if you have blood sugar issues, I think it needs to be used very, very sparingly. And, I used to be a beekeeper. I think I've given all my bees to my brother, and that's another reason we need to quit using all these stupid chemicals, because it's hard for these things to live, the bees, and that's going to be very important. I had 8 hives going into the winter, and I don't know, I may have 3 or 4 that's still alive. We're weakening our bees with the chemicals. They're making it more susceptible to the mites. So we need to protect them, because I love the honey. I don't use a lot of it because I have a tendency toward blood sugar issues, but use it sparingly, Donald.
Very good. And then we also had Penny that wanted to make sure that we addressed how important it is to take care of your dental health, because that's, your mouth is one of your first indicators as far as the physical body. So you want to address that a little bit about teeth, which we kind of did with stress. But
yeah, and I appreciate Penny putting that down there, because it's very important. Actually, there's plenty of research that talks about how your dental health relates to your heart health, and it's very important that you take care of these things. Don't let it go. Don't let your teeth get abscessed. We have plenty of really good dentists out there, and I think it's incredibly important. Of course, we swallow a lot of capsules with probiotics, but there's some loose probiotics that we actually just throw in our mouth, swish it around, so you have the good bacteria in your mouth itself. And the dentist says Janet's mouth and mine are getting healthier and healthier because of the way we do that.
Yeah, periodontal disease, red, swollen, bleeding gums, red tongues. It's all a sign of inflammation going on inside of the gut, believe it or not.
Yeah. When it's fiery red, that means it's a reflection of your GI tract.
Inflamed, yeah, inflammation. So when you start calming all that down and getting your teeth well, that's a good indicator, and your gums, that you're also healing your digestive tract, which most people don't even realize that. Every tooth goes to some organ in the body.
It has reflexes to it.
Yeah, so if you've lost a tooth or got a bad tooth, it generally will correlate to a problem that you've got physically in the body, which is kind of interesting.
So, and here's kind of, down another rabbit trail, but mental stress, mental stress actually causes a drop in blood sugar, and if it goes too low, then you wake up in the middle of the night. I know I have plenty of people say, but Doc, I don't sleep good, and folks, it's not an easy thing. It's not necessarily a quick thing. We have plenty of supplements that'll help your body, but you have to keep trying it for a little while until we find the particular thing that you need. Because when a blood sugar goes below a 70, the adrenals are the ones that wake up, try to save you. That goes back to the cortisol, high or low. That goes back to the DHEA. So the mental stress, we just have to learn to be happy. We need to quit being triggered by all this stupid stuff that's on the media. And again, I can choose peace instead of this.
So you're saying that blood sugar dropping, then the adrenals kick in, and that's what wakes people up in the night sometimes?
Yeah, but
that's interesting.
Then you can go into the liver and the glucagon and glycogen, and there's all kinds of physiological pathways. But just quit eating high fructose corn syrup. A little bit of honey's good just to support the bees, but
and don't go binge on things that are really bad food because you're so stressed out.
And we have a tendency to do that. And talking about fructose, excess fructose intake generally contributes to hypertension or high blood pressure and decreases erectile ability in men. So you want your Route 44 soft drink, Coke as we call it here in Texas, you're making you less likely to have erectile function.
Interesting.
Yeah, I tried to be that nice on that one.
So, the lesson we've learned here today is that we all officially need to resign from adulthood. We'll need to make our decisions using the eeny, meeny, miny, mo method, and arguments will be settled from now on by just sticking our tongue out because we're all going to be at recess now enjoying our lives.
Amen. I love that.
We hope you've learned a lot today. If we can help you in any way, please go to our website, greenwisdomhealth.com. Start with the health survey and fill that out. Dr. Lewis generally tries to call everyone so he can talk to you personally and help guide you to have a stress-free life worth living. And we'll be here next week on the Green Wisdom Health Show.
Once again, our show has come to an end, but your hope in your health is only beginning. If you or a loved one are in need of a different outcome and are waiting for a brighter future, take the first step and go to our website and fill out the health survey. Please don't keep us a secret. If you know someone that could benefit from this podcast, please share this show with your friends and family. You're only one step away from a life worth living.